We will call this July 17, 2024 meeting of the Platting Board to order. It is 6:39 p.m. May we have roll call?
Brandy Pennington. Brandy Pennington.
Present.
Thank you.
Here.
Skylar Quinn.
Here.
Sarah Catherine Bryan.
Present.
Patrick Jones.
Here.
Kyle Merka.
Present.
Brenda Butler.
Present.
Ryan Mormon. Stacy Wessel. Ashley Pluie are excused. You have a quorum. Thank you.
With the expected absence of Chair Mormon, I will be acting as chair. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Moved by Mr. Jones, seconded by Ms. Pennington. Any corrections or objections to the approval of the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. On to special order of business. Are there any disclosures?
I do have a disclosure.
Is that Mr. Merka?
Yes.
Would you like to speak to it?
Yes. This being my first meeting, I've not been present at previous meetings, so I've listened to the audio of the April 19th meeting related to case number S12713, the audio for May 1st meeting related to two cases, S12765 and S12767, and the audio for the June 5th meeting related to case S12765. I therefore can participate in tonight's consent agenda and tonight's discussion.
Are there any other disclosures? Ms. Butler.
Consent agenda item C1. I was not yet seated on the board when cases 12765 and 12767 were initially heard, but I've since listened to the audio and can vote on the consent agenda's resolution 2024-008 and participate in case S12765 and vote on the draft minutes of June 5th, 2024.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Any other disclosures? Okay, I have two myself. I have a conflict for the consent agenda item on case S12767, so I will be abstaining from that vote. And I had a prior disclosure for case S12765 from the May meeting, but the ruling of the chair at the time was that I could participate. Reading in the record the informational items for the abbreviated plat action summaries dated 6/17 and 6/24/2024. Okay, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Mr. Jones, seconded by Ms. Bryan. Anyone wish to pull an item from the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none, any objections to the approval of the consent agenda? Hearing none. The consent agenda is approved. At this time, I would ask for a motion to nominate a vice chair pro tem for this meeting, since I'm currently acting as chair, but I'm typically the vice chair. Do we have a motion for a vice chair pro tem? Moved by Mr. Jones, seconded by Ms. Bryan.
I can switch them. I'll switch them. Yeah, you will just. Can you redo it? Can you withdraw your? Okay. So now just. Sarah, that's when you move. You have a second.
The motion was withdrawn, and it is now moved by Ms. Bryan and seconded by Mr. Jones. Ms. Bryan, would you like to state your motion?
Yes, I move to nominate Mr. Jones as Vice Chair Pro Tem. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Jones, would you like to speak to your second?
I'm good, thank you.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. So moving on to old business. Before us tonight is the renewal of the two determinations made when case 12765 was initially heard during the public hearing on May 1st, 2024, which is now closed. Any party of interest wishing to appeal shall first file with the planning director within 7 days of the board's decision made on the record a written notice of intent to appeal in accordance with AMC 21.03.050A.4A. Following the approval of the written findings of fact and decision, any party of interest may, within 20 days, file an appeal by filing a notice of appeal and paying the appeal fee and deposit in accordance with Section 21.03.050. The notice of appeal must be filed with the planning director on a form prescribed by the municipality. If the appellant is not the applicant, the appellant's notice of appeal shall include proof of service on the applicant. May we have staff's presentation in case S12765.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll give an overview. As you stated, the municipality's Platting Board case S12713 was initially heard and approved on April 19th, 2023. It was appealed and remanded to the Platting Board by the Board of Adjustment, specifically addressing the omitted Falsey letter, street width requirements, and section line easement validity. A public hearing was held by the Platting Board on May 1st, 2024. The motions upholding the Board of Adjustment's determination both failed. Subsequent to that, Board Member Quinn requested a motion to renew. It was established that initial procedural and research errors were made. The motion to renew allowed, which was approved at the previous meeting, allowed the members to bring this motion back and discuss it. As you stated, the public hearing is closed. So then we're moving forward to, it's on tonight's agenda, and the members will be stating the first motion, and that'll be voted on. Then the second motion as well will be discussed and voted on. And as stated, if the motion renews, well, we already established that the motion to renew, and that's why we're here tonight. So staff's here to answer any questions, and the board can discuss until necessary to make a determination.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff?
I have one question. in reference to the right-of-way listed on the plat on page 121, the 25 dedicated feet of right-of-way will still exist regardless of whether or not DNR were to repeal the 33-foot section line easement. Is that accurate?
Through the chair, Mr. Merca, Dave Whitfield, Planning Department. Yes, the 25-foot width that's proposed to be dedicated on the east side of the Mills property is in conformance with the official streets and highways plan, minimum right-of-way widths that require between 50 and 60 feet of right-of-way. So if the right-of-way dedication is to be shared equally by two adjacent property owners, 25 feet would be required of each, which would make up the minimum 50 feet. So in this case, 25 feet is required to be dedicated and would be there regardless of the section line easement.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
Yes, I have a question I'd like to ask. So with the previous discussions that have been had on this particular property, the issue in question was the section line easement and its, whether or not it existed on the property adjacent to this one. So my question is that, obviously there's currently a road there, the Bonnie Lane Road exists there now. If that section line easement did not exist, that road is still present. So, what would there be a right-of-way that would have to be given in the adjacent properties perspective for them to have legal access to this lot, or how would that? I guess what I'm getting at is how imperative is the section line easement to this argument if there is a road that's there and without it, there's no access to this lot?
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, is a good question. Dave Whitfield again, Planning Department. The existence of the road does not necessarily give legal right to the road. So I think the question you're asking is more of a legal argument or a legal question, one that I can't necessarily answer. There are roads all over this city that don't exist in easement or in right-of-way, but people have used them and will continue to use them. But the legal right to use them is a different question and argument, and one I can't, unfortunately, at this time answer.
So to follow up to that then, if the section line easement does not exist or there's no right-of-way given to this lot, when this was originally platted or was given to the city, isn't that something that's normally a step in that process of how is their access going to be attained, or is this talking about properties that are just so old there was nothing in place or written when this was done?
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, are you referring to how the road was originally constructed? Is that the question you're asking?
No, more or less looking at how, the three lots that are on the east side of Bonnie Lane Road, and then the Canyon Road kind of comes in from the top there. So, the two at the bottom, there's really no access to them if not by Bonnie Lane Road. So
correct.
If that was originally being submitted on as a, to like for us, for instance, we would say, well, there's no road here, so you'd have to dedicate it. But, years ago when this was done, was that not a check in that sort of procedure, or is this all just too old, it would predate those kind of, reviews? Yeah,
that's a great question. Again, not one that I can answer. I would probably guess that the subdivision is so old that the laws that existed at that time may have allowed this to be done. Certainly today, if one were coming into plat, we would require dedication and construction if the road wasn't there. So it's important for the municipality to have legal right, or to when subdividing, require that a legal access is provided. 50 years ago, I'm not sure that the same standard was in place. I would have to do research to answer that question.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
I have actually one more question. I'm wondering if the Meacham letter was ever responded to by the Department of Natural Resources.
Through the chair, Mr. Merker, can you maybe reference the page number in the report as to which Meacham letter
You bet.
you're referring to? Or
You bet. It's page 39. Mr. Meacham writes to Mr. Horton and spells out their case. If the DNR has responded, either in favor or denying, that could help our situation here too.
letter, yeah. The planning staff's unaware of any response to that letter from DNR. The only letter we have is the letter from DNR in the staff packet. That's
Okay,
all.
that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate him asking that because I had a similar question, and so I wanted to make sure that we're clear too. When cases like this come up, are we under the assumption that DNR is who we would go to and look for the I guess say on section line easements and their validity, and then any issue that comes up such as this should be then a response from DNR with editing their findings or something like that would then tell us yes or no to that. The validity.
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, the answer to your question is yes. In the case where the existence of a section line easement came to question, the municipal surveyor would do the research and then reach out to DNR if there were a question as to the existence of that section line easement. It's our position as well as the municipal surveyor's position that DNR is in fact the authority in determining the existence of section line easements, and in this particular case, they've given us a written determination that the section line easement in that location does in fact exist, and that is in line with, I believe, the municipal surveyor's position today, which is different from the original position that the municipal surveyor took when doing work on the Canyon Road project. The municipal surveyor was here at the last meeting. She said that her original determination was in fact an error, and that she, in reviewing the DNR position, agrees with that position, and now that is her position.
I actually do have a question. So, sorry.
Ms. Butler.
It's okay. Actually, so been listening to this and the audio and reading over the packet and everything like that, and it is pretty clear that we had like one thing to do, and it was just allow the platting action. Now, if they are to start their build or do whatever they want to do in the future, they would have to go through a whole new application process, no? Or is it like just like they're not going to just be allowed to start development, they have to go through proper development application process and platting actions again, right?
Through the chair, Ms. Butler, this particular case is a platting action. The intent is to subdivide the large tract into 3 smaller tracts. I don't know that they have any development plans at this time, but if this plat was not successful, they would in fact have to come back and redo the entire process again. Yes, but they have no development plans that I'm aware of.
That's kind of what I meant. I know this is a platting action. I know why we're here. I just wanted to clarify because it seems that a lot of conversation was about future plans, but we don't have the future plans. So it's really hard to, listen to a lot of talk about things that we don't have in front of us. So that was a lot of the things that I've heard over the last little while. So I just wanted to make sure that we are on the understanding that all we are doing right now is subdividing 2 small plots of land on 1 parcel, and that is it.
Through the chair, Ms. Butler, just a slight correction, 3 tracts of land.
And this is Sean Odell. I would add to your question, if they were to further subdivide the large, very large tract into more lots, they would have to come back before the platting board, and there'd be a whole public hearing and a whole process and everything that's involved with this, another subdivision plat for more lots.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Jones.
Thanks. I wanted to turn the attention to the section of the decision that we're needing to make tonight on the Bonnie Lane Road specifically, and whether or not it complies with the street width code requirements. So that one was, I mean, in the I think it was the department letter to us. I mean, it's pretty clear that it doesn't in terms of, you know, where it actually comes down to meet the track down there. It says it's like 20 feet wide, and then it necks down to 10 feet. Do you know, it's kind of vague how that was worded and what we're needing to look at when it comes to that aspect specifically, because, I mean, it doesn't meet, you know, code with street requirements, but the given right-of-way dedication that would be, you know, on the Mills property, and then, you know, assuming that it exists on the other property, would have the appropriate right-of-way to improve it in the future if ever needed.
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, it's a very good question, and one that we had as well. It's our position that the question really is about whether the 25-foot required dedication is enough to actually construct a road, you know, given that that this is an alpine area. The official streets and highways plan requires between a 50 and 60-foot right-of-way dedication for the construction of local roadways. So half of the right-of-way dedication is shared by 2 abutting properties. In this particular case, the plat dedicates 25 feet, which the planning department has determined is in fact ample. If the adjacent property owner wanted to subdivide their lot, a matching 25-foot dedication would be required. So that's what we believe the question is. The private development department has already determined that the road that exists there currently is adequate for the subdivision. They have also said, should a new subdivision come in to further subdivide the tracts, it's very likely that additional improvements to that right-of-way would be required at that time. But with the 3 large tracts, they've determined that no improvements are in fact required.
Thank you.
This is Sean O'Dowd. I'd also like to point out on page 107 of the packet there, that's the private development's comments, and you can see there that no peripheral improvements required at the time, and then there's some plat notes that were approved that's going to be required about improvement in the future.
Thank you. And I did just want to state, too, looking at the second item here that was on the list of the Falsey letter, I know Mr. Merka, when he asked the question about the Meacham letter, in my head, and what I had written was also asking about the Falsey letter, so kind of a similar ask to that one. Was that one, in your understanding, presented to DNR at all either, or was it same situation, just the letter that was here is the stance that DNR's taken?
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, I'm unaware if DNR ever responded to the Falsey letter. The only written opinion that we have from DNR is the opinion that you have in your packet, which I think was a response to the applicant's request for DNR's position.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Butler?
Sorry, just one more quick question for staff. So the row was saying 25 feet wasn't enough, but project management, engineering department, everything said it was. So when I was looking for like Title 24, some sort of guidance on like where the calculations were coming from, and then I looked at like the planning and design document and like 1.2A, I couldn't find anything that like provided any sort of guidance for calculations on road width. Is there a section where we could, in the future, find this information?
Through the chair, Ms. Butler, again, a good question. The right-of-way dedication requirements that the municipality imposes on subdivision is dictated by the official Streets and Highways Plan. And we can provide you with a copy of that. It's also online. But it actually gives us guidance on what the minimum right-of-way dedications would be for certain classifications of roadway. In this particular case, Bonnie Lane Road is a local road that requires 50 to 60 foot of dedication.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions of staff? May we have a motion for both the Falsey letter and the 33-foot section line easement? Moved by Mr. Jones, seconded by Ms. Butler. Mr. Jones, can you please state your motion?
Yes, I can, but before I do want to clarify that the last statement of this says the Platting Board has determined that a 33-foot section line easement does exist on the east side of the Mills property. Is that, I don't believe that's what we're discussing here. I think the DNR record was that there was not one on the Mills property. That's why they were dedicating the 25-foot right-of-way, and the section line easement that was existing was actually on the adjacent property. So I do want to just point that out.
I'm going to let staff answer that one.
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, do you want to walk us through where you're seeing, what you're seeing?
Yeah, and I think my initial confusion did come in from one of the original S4 applications. Let me see what page it was on here. I took the note. I believe it was the original S4 document did say that within it that there was not a right-of-way on the east side of the Mills property, or a section line easement rather, so they were dedicating that 25 feet.
Oh, which page are you on the staff report?
Yeah, I'd have to look for it 1 second. Sorry, so one part of it is the conclusion on the DNRs, which I'm on page 101 right now, where it says a section line easement does not exist within the southeast 1/4 of said section 25, and then below that, a 33-foot RS 2477 section line easement exists within said government lot 4 pursuant to chapter 35. And I believe, if I was looking at the S4 letter, it related to those two, but it,
Yeah, take your time. We can find that.
yeah, I'm trying to find it, sorry.
No, it says on the east side of the Mills property. The east of the Mills.
You want me to tell him?
Oh, sorry, it was actually on the transcript. I found it here from the original meeting. So, reading the transcript on page 142. So it says, speaking of these section line easements, I saw a lot of discussion in the packet that we got about whether there was an easement, whether there wasn't. I'm kind of confused by that. Could you address that? And Steve Callahan said, sure, there's a procedure that is followed, a procedure that is established through the ASPLS, Alaska Society of Professional Land Surveyors. They have a procedure and standards and practice for researching and determining if a section line, whether a section line easement exists or not. So we did, at S4 Group, did our own research and came up with our own conclusion that there was a section line easement on the east side of the section line on the east side of the property. There was not a section line on the west side of the east property. So essentially, on a piece of property that we are subdividing, there is no section line easement immediately adjacent to it on the neighboring property. There's a 33-foot section line easement. So I guess I read that. So essentially, on the piece of property that we are subdividing, there is no section line easement, period. Immediately adjacent to it on the neighboring property, there's a 33-foot section line easement. We took our findings and went to that state of Alaska. They basically considered the authority for section line easements in the state of Alaska. There's a surveyor there, George Hurton. I submitted all my research and findings to him, and he did an independent, went through the process independently of what I did, and he reached the same conclusion that there was no section line easement on the property that we are subdividing, but there is a 33-foot section line easement on the neighboring property.
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, I believe you're correct. I'm looking at the same documentation. I believe that you're in fact correct. So not on the east side of the Mills property, but east of the Mills property, there is in fact, in the opinion of the Department of Natural Resources, a 33-foot section line easement. So the motion should be tweaked slightly to reflect that.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones, can you please restate your motion?
Sure. I move in case S12765 that upon reviewing the falsity letter, the municipal surveyor's revised conclusion and the opinion of the State of Alaska Department of Natural Resources Division of Mining, Land, and Water Survey Section, the Platting Board has determined that a 33-foot section line easement does exist on the, it would be the west side of the adjacent, or the property adjacent to the Mills property. However we want to word that. Would be the west side of the adjacent property.
Maybe we should find a legal on that. Yeah. Question for staff. What is the legal description of the property on the east of the Mills property?
Mr. Chair, let me take a look at that. Hang on.
Thanks.
Through the chair, Mr. Jones, if we turn to page 101 and we look at, where is it, Quincy? Yeah, at the very, almost the last paragraph there, and it's government lot 4. That last bulletin point describes where the easement is. See, it says a 33-foot RS 247. 7 section line easement exists within said government lot 4.
Perfect, thank you. I can restate with that.
Maybe we should clear it with legal just to make sure that motion makes sense.
Hi, this is Quincy Arms from Legal, through the chair. I really think it'd be cleaner if you, and it would take less tweaking, if you said on the lot immediately to the east of the Mills lot. Right? We could give you the meets and bounds, but it's going to be really long.
So on the west of the lot immediately.
There you go.
On the west side of the lot immediately east of the Mills subdivision. Did you type, the clerk, did you type it in? We can't read that on the big screen. I will take a look and see on our screen.
Does exist on the west side. Yeah. It was, so, on the west side of the lot. Immediately adjacent.
So for everyone, we can read, it says, "The plating board has determined that a 33-foot section line easement does exist on the adjacent lot immediately on the west side of the Mills property," which is incorrect wording.
Yeah, that's correct. It does exist on the west side of the lot immediately.
Clerk, so we're going to add west side of the lot immediately east of the Mills subdivision.
Mr. Jones, can you restate your motion?
Yes, thank you. I move in case S12765 that upon reviewing the falsity letter, the municipal surveyor's revised conclusion, and the opinion of the State of Alaska Department of Natural Resources, Division of Mining, Land and Water Survey Section, the Platting Board has determined that a 33-foot section line easement does exist on the west side of the lot immediately east of the Mills property.
Thank you. Ms. Butler, do you still plan on, does your second still stand?
Yes.
Would you like to speak to your second?
Yes.
Sorry, Ms. Butler. Actually, Mr. Jones, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. So I intend to support this motion, and through the different questions asked by the staff tonight, I feel like with the information that we have and the information provided by Department of Natural Resources and the municipal surveyor's conclusion, we are to believe that there is a section line easement on the west side of the lot immediately east of the Mills property, and that there did not exist one on the Mills property itself, which was why the right-of-way was dedicated in that way, and that would provide the required right-of-way for a road if it was ever improved in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Butler, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes. I'll mirror some of the thoughts and comments on the motion, but I also wanted to state that I do believe that the planning department did a really thorough job on double checking everything. I like that the surveyor had submitted a revised opinion. The DNR opinion was extremely important. Staff recommends, the staff analysis was good. Road and trails, the community councils are really excited about joining trails, and the Greenbelt, the whole thing is going to attach the two different sections of trail that exist now. So I read the report, and they seem to be pretty excited about it. So, but I do think that it complies with code, and the bottom line is that's what it needs to, so that's why.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Are there any other findings that someone would like to speak to? Anyone on the phone? Are there any findings that aren't in support of the motion? I'm now going to pass the gavel to Mr. Jones so I can speak to the motion. I will also be supporting this. I think this has been pretty thoroughly reviewed. I know it was a little confusing to begin with. DNR was saying one thing, and even though they are the governing body, as stated by MOA Legal, it's a little confusing when the municipal surveyor has a different opinion, but she presented in our May meeting and corrected the record and said that she does believe that that section line easement exists. So that gives me a lot of confidence that it is in fact there. I think that Mr. Jones and Ms. Butler asked a lot of really good questions of staff regarding the street width part of this as well, and I think that they answered everything and spoke to why they're asking for the right-of-way that they are and that it abides by the official streets and highways plan. So I think that the members of this board have done a good job in this case asking questions, and I think that MOA at least has answered everything that makes me confident in my vote, so I'll be supporting this as well. Thank you. Are there any final comments or any hesitation?
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and speak very briefly. I'm in support of this motion. I've read through the entire packet, listened to all of the comments. I understand the neighbors' concerns because they don't support the DNR's findings, but from all the details that we've read through and listened to, there's no evidence that it doesn't exist, and I think we're well within our rights to approve this plat the way that it's stated here.
Thank you, Mr. Murka. Any other comments? I'd like to call for a vote.
Mr. Murka, how do you vote?
In favor?
Ms. Pennington, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you.
Approved.
And the motion is passed 6-0. May we have a motion on the street width requirement? Moved by Mr. Jones, seconded by Ms. Butler. Mr. Jones, can you please state your motion?
Yes, I move in case S12765 that the Platting Board has determined that the Mills subdivision and Bonnie Lane Road do comply with the street width requirement of 25 feet on the subdivision side per the official streets and highways plan and the MOA Traffic Engineering Department's comments.
Mr. Jones, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. So this ties back into the questions that were originally asked of staff here tonight, asking for the clarification of the what's actually being asked of the letter that came back to us, whether it was the current conditions or the future improvements, and that answer was that it would be the hypothetical road if ever developed in the future, and that we have the appropriate amount of the 50 feet of right-of-way per the highway streets and highways plan here by the right-of-way dedicated 25 feet on the Mills property and then the adjacent property section line easement combining to give us the required width. So I am in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Butler, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, I'll, again, mirror the comments just given, and also just say that, the MOA, private development engineers report said everything was great. Traffic said everything was to code. So, I mean, they know what they're doing, and I just definitely think that, if in the future something comes up, address it at that time. But right now, it definitely does meet all of the requirements of the code.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Would anyone else like to state findings? Anyone on the phone? Hearing nothing, I'm going to pass the gavel again to Mr. Jones. I will also be supporting this motion. I think Mr. Jones and Ms. Butler summed it up nicely. I spoke to this a little bit in the previous motion about the 25 feet of right-of-way abiding by the official streets and highways plan, and it's supported by staff and it's supported by the planning department. Seems well-researched, and I will be supporting the motion. Are there any additional findings? We will now call for a vote.
Mr. Merca, how do you vote?
In favor?
Ms. Pennington?
In favor.
Thank you.
Six votes in favor, the motion passes. Thank you all for coming this evening. That is the end of that case. Are there any board member comments? I will speak on this one. I'd like to welcome all the new members. Mr. Merca, I know you're here via the phone, and we appreciate you calling into the meeting. Ms. Butler, you did a great job contributing to this meeting in your first meeting. Definitely took a little guts. And Ms. Ploy is not here at this meeting, but I definitely look forward to serving with her in the future on this board. Would anyone else like to say anything?
Yeah, I would like to share those sentiments and appreciate your guys' time and volunteering for the board, and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Does that mean I'm one of the senior members of the Platting Board now after 3 meetings?
Congratulations.
Welcome. Thank you so much for serving. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, first off, because this is a very important thing to do. And I'm a little nervous, so you're gonna kind of don't mind me, but I appreciate the opportunity and the getting to work with you, great people. And I'm excited about it.
Thanks, Ms. Butler. Likewise. Mr. Merca, anything?
I'd just like to tell you I'm excited to be here. It's fun to serve. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight, but just happened to be out of state.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for their patience in my first meeting being the chair. I was a little rusty, but I hope to improve on that if I'm given this opportunity again in the future. At this time, can we have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mr. Jones, seconded by Ms. Bryan. We're adjourned.